Please welcome to the program, Professor Alan Dershowitz. Alan, always nice to hear from you.
Oh, thank you so much. But then the name of the book is Guilt by Accusation.
What did I say, association?
Association, because the theory is today if you accuse somebody, I was accused falsely by a woman I never met. I have emails from her admitting she never met me, admitting from her lawyer that she couldn't have met me and that she was wrong. But yet the accusation is enough to make me guilty in the eyes of some. So the name of the book is Guilt by Accusation. You get it on Kindle for $1.95.
Guilt by accusation, the challenge of proving innocence in the age of #MeToo. You know, Alan, you were one of three nationally known guests to hang up on me. Ralph Nader was the other one, and Walter Cronkite the other one. You're the only one though who called back the next day and apologized. You might recall it was over O.J. Simpson. I made a statement of fact that you thought was a misstatement of fact, and you got so ticked off you hung up. But you called back the next day, apologized, and then we finished our conversation.
I apologize again. Nobody should ever hang up on you or anybody else. I mean, you should just answer. You know, we live in an age today of hang-ups where people won't talk to each other; they just hang up. So I apologize. I never hang up. I just will continue a dialogue. If we disagree, we disagree. Let's have a conversation.
No worries. Now, about your accusation, you were accused of something having to do with Jeffrey Epstein, and you go over this to some extent in your book, Guilt by Accusation. Tell us about it.
Oh, sure. I met Jeffrey Epstein. I was introduced to him by the Lady Rothschild, very prominent, told that he was friends with the president of Harvard, the provost, a major contributor to Harvard. And I started attending seminars of his at Harvard. We didn't have a close and personal relationship. It was an academic relationship. And then I became his lawyer when he was accused and made the deal that many people thought was too good a deal. I plead guilty to that. That's my job as a lawyer, get the best deal I can. Mm-hmm. And then years and years later, this woman comes out of the blue and says she had sex with me 7 times in places I never was. But she had previously told the FBI she didn't have sex with me. She had previously written a book saying she had never met me. She previously wrote emails saying she never met me. But after she met her lawyers, and they put a pot of gold in front of her and said, you know, if you accuse Dershowitz publicly, and then you go to Leslie Wexner privately, the owner of Victoria's Secret and the owner of the Limited, and tell him that he's guilty of the same thing, he'll give you $1 billion to settle it, because otherwise it'll destroy his company, Victoria's Secret. So I was part of a whole shakedown plot that's now been exposed. But people, even though my innocence has been categorically proved, the former head of the FBI investigated it and concluded that the whole story was made up, people still believe it because they want to believe it. And now, especially after I went to the Senate and defended the president's right against being impeached, people have redoubled. Oh, he's defended the president's right not to be impeached. He must be guilty. And even if he's not guilty, we'd like to destroy his reputation because we don't like what he did to the president. So it's kind of a modern-day McCarthyism.
The book is called Guilt by Accusation, The Challenge of Proving Innocence in the Age of #MeToo. It is written by my guest, Alan Dershowitz. Alan, let's talk about the way the DOJ has treated the president and the president-elect Donald Trump. Give us your reaction.
Well, I think it's been, I think the way the impeachment went was very unconstitutional. The DOJ, it's very interesting because I think they're both right. I think that the president is right. He's certainly entitled to express a view about the excessive sentence against the Stone, and it was excessive. Most people in his situation would get a year, maybe 2, but 7 to 9. And then I think the Attorney General was right by saying to the president, wait a minute, you make my job much more difficult if you tweet that, and then I do the right thing, and people will think that what I did was in reaction to what you tweeted when it wasn't. I would have done the same thing had you not tweeted. So it's a complicated issue, but the one thing that appalls me is these 1,000 former prosecutors who are now calling on Barr to resign. Would they be doing the same thing if this were a Democrat and a Democratic president? I don't believe so. I think this is partisan prosecutorial misuse of their authority as former prosecutors.
Mm-hmm. Alan Dershowitz, more people thought Hillary Clinton should have been prosecuted for violating the Espionage Act than think that Donald Trump should be convicted and thrown out of office for the 2 articles of impeachment. You were not among those who thought Hillary should be charged, though.
No, I don't think people should be charged for political crimes. I'm against it, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. I don't believe in the weaponization either of the criminal justice system or of impeachment. I think impeachment should only be used in cases where there's a broad national consensus and a bipartisan consensus, And I think criminal prosecution should be brought only in unambiguous cases where it's clear that the person stepped over the line and said, to be or not to be, today I am a felon. I am crossing that line. I don't think that's true of Donald Trump. I don't think that's true of Hillary Clinton. And I'd like to see the criminal justice system reserved only for extreme and very clear cases.
The DOJ announced on Friday, Alan Dershowitz, that they were closing their investigation of former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. What's your reaction to that?
Well, look, if they had also closed the investigation of other people that they were looking into, I would be applauding that, because I don't like criminal investigations of people on partisan grounds, but I don't think you can reconcile that with the decision to go forward with some of these other cases. And what I recommended the other night was that a former judge, a very distinguished person, be appointed by Barr to come in and advise the Justice Department on what the policies for perjury and false statements ought to be. It ought to be the same policy, regardless of whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, a former head of the FBI, or anybody else. We can't have different standards for different people. A single standard is essential.
Finally, Alan Dershowitz, we just have 60 seconds left. Michael Flynn is apparently reconsidering his guilty plea. Should he?
He absolutely should. He should withdraw it. He didn't commit a crime, as far as I can tell. What he said was not material. It was a perjury trap. They sprung it on him. I won a case just like that some years ago, and I hope he does withdraw his guilty plea, and I hope that if he goes to trial, he's acquitted. I don't think that what he did should be a warranted criminal prosecution.
We have a few seconds left. Alan Dershowitz, you once said that had you gone after the president for impeachment, you would have been the hero of Martha's Vineyard. Were you more scorned by the O.J. Simpson case or by your representing Donald Trump?
It's not even close. The Donald Trump case, people who are friends for 30 years, whose kids I helped get into college, whose kids I bailed out of prison in the middle of the night, won't talk to me, want trigger warnings to know where I'm kind of going to be.
We've got to go.
It's terrible.